Hi everybody, and welcome to David's Kitchen. Tonight I'm going to make a very traditional Italian peasant meal. It's called Minestra. One of the things about the way Italians kind of have different dialects is they have different names or change the name ever so slightly for the same word. And so the official word for what I'm going to make, Minestra, is like Italian peasant soup, usually made with escarole, etc. My family were from southern Italy. They called it Minestra. So they kind of took the RA off the end and just kind of made a little slang out of it to call it Minestra. And Minestra is delicious, let me tell you that. So it's very easy. It's one pot. So we're going to use a big stock pot here that you can see. I have that. To that, we're going to add a large head of cabbage. And if you can see, I took this head of cabbage and it is cut like really big into chunks. You don't want to cut it up tiny like coleslaw. You want big chunks out of the cabbage. Then I also have about 6 carrots, also cut up in nice chunks. I don't peel the carrots. What I do is I scrub the carrots when I'm washing them and keep the skin on them. It kind of helps them hold their shape when they're cooking. I have a whole onion. Also, because the cabbage is big and leafy, I left the onions very large, almost like I cut the onion in half and then sort of cut it like onion rings. Of course, we're going to have some garlic in here, my favorite, the hot chili peppers, red kidney beans, and tonight's version I'm going to make vegan. Not because I'm vegan, I just, during the pandemic and going through things that I have in the refrigerator, I want to make sure I'm using what I have and not going to run out to the store. But this is delicious. This is actually plant-based chorizo, so it has a lot of nice flavor. Normally, when my mom made it, she would use pancetta or some bacon, sausage, ground beef, whatever it is that you want to do. Remember, one of the trademarks of what I try to convey to you guys when you're cooking these recipes is to make it your own. Use the ingredients that you like. Okay, so as usual, the first thing that we're doing here is I have a couple of tablespoons of olive oil with my hot chili peppers. Once again, that kind of gets the oil nice and flavorful. To this hot oil, I'm going to add the onions. And then the garlic. And once again, I'm just going to saute this just a little bit to basically allow the garlic to just get a little bit brown and kind of take that stingy garlic bitterness out and just kind of let it saute just ever so slightly. Next, I'm adding the chorizo. You would have also, if you were going to use some since the chorizo is already cooked and you're just kind of heating it up, if you were using bacon, you would have, or pancetta or ground beef, you would have gone ahead and browned that a little bit first. In this case, I just added it now just to get it a little slightly browned, not very much, because this will help bring out the flavors before we put in the cabbage and the carrots. Now that this is browned a little bit, I'm just going to go ahead and add my pieces of cabbage. Once again, you see how nice and big they are, but don't worry. What's going to happen is they're already starting to fall apart. They'll fall apart as they cook. So you have the cabbage in here. Definitely you want to add some kosher salt and pepper, once again, to your own taste, whatever you might like with your salt and pepper. You could add parsley, oregano, any other kind of spices that you might like. I'm actually just using a blend of Italian seasoning that basically has rosemary, oregano, parsley, a little bit of garlic in here. And my recommendation would be to put in something like this, probably 2 teaspoons of Italian seasoning. So this is, you hear it sizzling. Now we need to add about Need to add water about halfway up to the top of the pan. So just fill up the pan. Halfway or so with the water. Throw in our carrots. And our dog Gigolo just got one. Lucky him. And a bay leaf. Put that in here. And this is going to come to a boil. And we're just going to want to simmer this for probably about 30 minutes. So you want it to simmer enough so that the carrots start to get soft. About halfway through the simmer process, you want to stir it up. Look how beautiful those colors look. And you can already see how the carrots and cabbage have really broken down, and it's making kind of like a soup or a stoop, if you will, but it's minestra. So we'll let this cook a little bit more, probably about another 15 minutes or so before we add the kidney beans. One of the things that Steve was asking me, my husband is Steve, he said, they're probably wondering why you have something vegan. And that's because my niece's girlfriend is vegan, and before the Safe at Home was going to happen, they were going to come visit, and I was going to probably barbecue, and we were going to use the chorizo, and so I didn't want it to go bad, so I wanted to go ahead and use it. And this type of a dish is so ideal to leverage a vegan or vegetarian option, and that's why I'm making it vegan tonight. So there you go. Now we're on the home stretch. As you can see, it's been about 30 minutes. The carrots are firm but soft enough that you can run a fork through them. Everything's boiling. It's just perfect. So now you're going to add your can of red kidney beans. Liquid and all. It's real important because the liquid in the red kidney beans will actually help to create a little bit of thickness to the sauce here, to the soup, to the water. And so the starch in the kidney bean water will actually help this thicken up just a little bit. So I'm going to put those in there, let it cook for about another 10 more minutes, and we'll be back. Hey everybody, oh, that sound, my favorite time of day. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off and take a look, and you can see that it's done. It's been bubbling. I just shut the gas off now, and it's really pretty hot. So my recommendation is to let this sit for a good 15 to 30 minutes, and it will just help the flavors congeal a little bit, and then you also won't burn your tongue when you go to eat it. One thing I keep forgetting to tell you guys is to make sure you remove these little hot peppers, as you can see here. So when you're stirring up your food towards the end and you see a hot pepper, go ahead and take it out. And also make sure you tell your guests and your loved ones, if you see a hot pepper, don't eat it. Otherwise you're going to get some tears in your eyes. I warned you. All right, folks, it's just about time for dinner. So as you can see, the soup has cooled down, and I'm just putting it in the bowl. Look how nice and hearty this is. You have cabbage and carrots and the beans, onions, the vegan chorizo. It just smells really good. And once again, in these trying times, this comfort food just makes me feel so good. It continues to bring back just wonderful memories of my mom making this. My godmother, my Auntie Jo, God bless her, she's 96 years old, and she still makes this. And we would typically serve this, my mom would typically serve this with a nice big piece of crusty Italian bread where you rip a piece off, and we call it soup a mange, where you take a piece of the bread and dip it into the broth, and it would taste so delicious, almost like using the bread as a sponge. But trying to cut down a little bit of carbs, so I could have a little bit of that leftover crumb fruit cake that I made over the weekend for some dessert later on. So I hope you guys are doing safe and staying safe, and for God's sakes, wash your hands. Ciao.